Yo, yo, yo. Welcome back to the channel. I'm going to make a super quick AMC update. I'm literally not even going to sit down for this video. So that'll make me really want to move fast and not drag the video out for hours. So, I posted a thread about this on Twitter. I'll link that down below so you can see like word for word, just in case I skip out on anything while I'm making this video or whatever, how I'm feeling. But basically, the sentiment was, look, AMC loves 786s, okay? Like in this retracement range, AMC, I have it set to just 786 on Fibonacci retracement. It loves to come down and test these 786s, okay? Like almost everything. I think I've talked about it on the channel before. I'm almost positive I have, but almost every like run up comes back down. Comes back down to a 786 before moving back up. So I'm still confident as it stands right now. I'm still confident that the bottom is in. And we can, here it is. We can put on some more fibs here, just the key ones. We'll leave the 786, put the 707, 885 back on there. I'm still confident that the bottom is in here, okay? Like, that is still my conviction. I still do believe that the bottom is in at this, like, $20. I'm not saying that anything below that is off of the table. Obviously, we've talked about lower price points and the possibilities of those. I'm not saying that those are necessarily off the table, but what I will say is that in the short term, this move is reminding me a lot of these previous wedges that we've called. If you followed me on Twitter, and then if you followed me at the beginning of the YouTube channel, this was my first kind of like thing that kind of blew up on Twitter, I guess, is that I was calling for this wedge probably when the price was around, where would it have been? I probably would have been calling for it like around here, or maybe it was here. When I saw this bounce here, I drew this wedge. I was like, oh shit, like this thing's about to explode, and it did. And you see, you break out, you get the retest, you break back up, boom, boom, boom. You're right. Similar thing here, right? Once we broke down here, I was like, oh, you could be seeing a wedge, and I remember I was drawing it like this at first. And then it broke lower, so then I was like, oh, maybe, but it's still a wedge, and then boom, we broke out of here, and we were calling for this one more specifically with the 786 retracement. I was like, yeah, this is going to be the bottom, and literally on that day, we shot up like a rocket ship, right? Obviously, we've talked about the cyclical nature of this thing. I wouldn't be surprised to see, something similar happen here. This thing behave like this in a wedge. Maybe this is your top, and then boom, boom. You have your bottoms here, right? This is how I see the wedge, at least. And maybe this is optimistic, right? Maybe the wedge is like something like here, right? This is totally possible, but because of the 786 retracement, it's almost a rule for AMC that I'm kind of following, right? And that doesn't mean that it's a rule and it has to do it, right? I'm just saying that it has historically in this trading range. And a lot of times stocks like to follow the same patterns. They like to behave the same way. So I do think that in the short term, you do see some bullish relief. Look, guys, the past few days, I'm seeing bears. Or people in the comments and stuff like that will come in and say, "Oh, how's that? Blah blah blah. Oh yeah," and they're basically showing off. The volume is hilarious on these trading days, guys. Like the volume is just silly. I mean, it's like there's literally no volume the past two trading days for AMC whatsoever. Let's see. Let's go to the daily, and you'll be able to see it. I mean, what do we have here? Oh shit, I clicked it. 26 million volume, 23 million volume. I think somebody told me that these were the two lowest trading days from a volume perspective. Like in however long, whatever. I mean, it's really bad. The volume is super low, right? And what that tells me is that bears are essentially trading against each other. And I could see a situation where you have this falling wedge happen, and you break down here, and then bears start to say, "Oh, look, your inverse head and shoulders. It's not going to happen anymore." Boom, and then they get trapped by this falling wedge. It's happened time and time again. It's the same thing. I remember back here. I remember back here people drawing head and shoulders. Look, we'll go back here. Oh, and I really got to end the video. I'm doing that thing where I just kind of go off into a zone. But yeah, I remember people were drawing a inverse head and shoulders, like a slanted or, well, no, I think that they were literally drawing a head and shoulders here. Like they were going this, this, and then they were saying, oh, this is going to be a shoulder. And then when it broke down, I'm sure bears got all excited, but then boom. And that's how bear traps happen, right? To me, AMC, it just seems to hate head and shoulders. Like it just does. Like it just doesn't do it. It just doesn't ever, at least inverse head and shoulders. It doesn't really play out the way that bulls are drawing inverse head and shoulders. Just based on and wedges. I mean, it's literally like a wedge machine, like rising and falling wedges. It literally follows them to a T. So that's what I'm looking for. Hopefully this wasn't too spacey, anything like that. Just to let you know what's going on. A few days ago, Luna woke up, had a fever and a runny nose. I took her to urgent care. It was on January 1st, on New Year's Day. And they gave her some tests for RSV, strep. It was RSV, one other test, and COVID, and she came back negative for the other two and came back positive for COVID. So I've been just taking care of her. She's been fine since. She hasn't had a fever or anything like that. Then Dave popped up with a little fever, but he hasn't had a fever since. And now Mommy has a sore throat, and she's just like in the bed right now, just hanging out today. So I've been taking care of the kids. So that's why I guess I'm a little late here on this video. And I don't know if I'll have another chance to make one because I'm taking care of both of the kids. I guess that basically we're kind of like cross exposing or whatever right now, but I mean I guess it is what it is when you live together, right? You gotta do what you gotta do. But so hopefully everything is good with that. Since then, Luna hasn't had a fever, hasn't had any symptoms or anything like that. She's actually been acting pretty normal since that day. So maybe it's a false positive is what I'm hoping for, and she's just kind of just had like a little sick day, or she might have had a minor fever. It wasn't a major fever. It was a minor fever, but a minor fever from teething or something like that. Who knows? That's kind of what I'm hoping for, but whatever. You got to be safe, not sorry, right? But yeah. So anyway, this is pretty much what I'm looking at with AMC. I know I went on like a personal rant or whatever. I guess it's top of mind, right? This is what I'm looking at with AMC. Obviously, remember the further downside targets, right? Like we have talked about the possibility, right, that you have a further fib retracement. We've talked about the 786, 1973. We never did that. There's also the gap down at like $17 or some shit like that everybody's always pointing out. And then if you turn your fib on log scale, that 786 rule, it's without log scale on log charting is what I've noticed, okay? It always wants to do that. Remember, we have talked about the 618 on log scale. It was a thing that happened in the buy button collapse, if you measure from the bottom to the top, where it kind of floated above this 618. We haven't had that in this cycle yet. We haven't gone down to that price point. I'm not saying that we have to. I'm just saying it is something to note from a cycle perspective. The other things that we're looking at, people are definitely going to miss this part of the video if they didn't stick around because they heard me talking about my personal shit and they didn't care about it. Sorry about that. The other thing that we are looking at, obviously, is OBV is very divergent on almost every meaningful time frame, favoring bulls right now. Like it's like, I mean, every single time frame, you have bullish divergence on OBV. Hour, 4 hour is crazy divergence, like just like moon shit, and basically like this just kind of it could be a signal that there is accumulation happening. The daily It's also crazy divergent right now. Basically, if you don't understand this indicator, it's basically when you see a divergence here, the volume, it's just a historical chart of the volume, adding on green days and then subtracting the volume from red days. And it usually can give you a good idea that, like if it's diverging in this way, that because the volume is more overpowering on the green days or green candles, it could be an insinuation that there's actually more buying pressure that's happening over time. There could be institutions or whales accumulating, and usually that's a good sign, right? So, like from a bullish perspective, if you saw the opposite divergence, obviously it would be bearish because you'd see the price going up. OBV going down would be a signal that they're actually dumping supply as the price goes up, which is bearish, and you would see the price fall. So anyway, that's the end of the video. And then also RSI is super cool. Go look at RSI on all the indicators. I mean, all the time frames. Sorry, all the indicators on all the time frames. And just look at it from a more macro perspective, right? Like, we're at this price point. RSI is relatively cool. If you look at the weekly chart specifically, I don't know why TradingView just recently added this moving average to RSI. I don't want to use that. So if you look at RSI from the buy button collapse, right? We are significantly below, right? So we're significantly oversold compared to the buy button being turned off, where there was a period of time where retail couldn't even buy, okay? So they could only sell. We are significantly oversold compared to that. So, like if we do get a swing up, right? This is just more fuel in the tank for a big run up if a big run up were to happen. And you guys know here, I try to stay away from those big run up narratives and stuff like that because everybody's just waiting for the big pop. We need to take it a day at a time. I've talked about it for weeks and if not months now, that we really can't talk about gigantic moves up until we break above this, at least this $42 to $45 level, and we consolidate here. And then really, I want to see it above the 52 before we see significant, like, 3-digit AMC sort of moves. I don't really want to talk about that until then. Okay, without talking and babbling anymore, that's gonna be the video. You guys take it easy. Be safe out there. Peace.